What's going on, creators? Yeah, I just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, today I'd like to continue the conversation on mental diets and really focusing your attention on things that bring you joy and not just getting stuck in these feedback loops staring through screens. It's really important to start to unplug from these like triggering things. If you're having a hard time like transmuting it or just like incorporating it into your new story that you're telling yourself, getting out of the old story and getting into the new. But if you continuously find yourself getting triggered by these maybe social media or what's on the news or what strangers on the internet are saying, start to disengage more and more from that and really start to get into your life, into your reality, into your physical surroundings, and start making your dreams a reality. It's so easy sometimes to start to get into like internet mode or like I don't know, just virtual reality mode where it's like, oh, I'm making a virtual straw man or caricature or whatever. That and this is like coming from experience, like my personal experience of doing that, where it's like now kind of unplugging more, really focusing on my like my handyman business, my local area, and really just what is like around here for me to steward, take care of, grow, evolve, all that kind of stuff. I hear a lot of people online. It's like, oh, I'm being censored, and I'm scared that my voice isn't being heard. It's like, for one, we're all connected, so whatever one person's kind of vibing in, we all are. It has an effect. So as you be the change that you want to see, that's the biggest thing, is like you be the change, and then the mirror of reality will start to reflect that. And once you realize that's a real thing, that you can be, do, and have anything, that God's in control of everything, and that, is another way of saying, love is in control. Fear is an illusion, and you start to realize that when you start to face it. And it's one thing to hear someone saying that. It's another to experientially know it. It's one thing to, like read a book about something. It's another to experience it. And so a lot of this, from what I've experienced, is actually physically doing it and and seeing it working. And part of that includes standing in faith, even if you have a fear that's trying to keep you in a box. And so I just want to share that with other people that might be on the fence, especially with what's going on with whatever pandemic world. It's so far removed from my day to day, and I feel bad, on some level, for people that are having to live that way. But on the other end of it, it's like it's also a choice. I mean, it's like you can choose to live in this narrative that's not real, or you can choose to live your life with God and ultimately pursue that. So much of this is consent. Really, it's all consent. This is nothing's random. Nothing's just happenstance happening to people. Like on some level, especially the suffering is mostly self-induced, and what's not, is also a consent. It's like an offer that was made, maybe through coercion. Maybe if you're not used to dealing with like narcissists and like psychopaths, it might be strange to like, well, I acquiesced to what they wanted and they still want more. It's like, yeah, that's what psychopaths do. And it's like, unfortunately, not to look at the government as being psychotic, because there's a lot of good people that work in these positions, but it's how you're relating to it. If you're begging for this authoritarian, I just need someone to tell me what to do. It's like it's a good sign to me that your faith is in the wrong place when it should be focused in the direction of like God and heavenly things and peace and joy and helping, as you help others, you're helping yourself. So like understanding the connectedness of all things is something that you might be missing out on. And scientifically, you can talk about that as like the quantum field, or we're all being connected through energy and vibration and frequency, which on some level is a way to visualize things. It's easy for me to visualize things in terms of frequency because just producing music and playing music and stuff, it's an easy language to digest for me. But like for others, whatever the spirit's leading you, in your understanding, I guess, is the way to move. But like it's all about kind of going within your own being to connect with that divine intelligence, and through synchronicity, through everything really. You're able to experientially know these things to be real. It's like, as someone who's like been playing guitar, I don't know, maybe 20 plus years, been, professionally on some level, and like realizing, going from, very beginnings, where it's like it's hard to even make a chord shape, to being able to express accurately like the inner vision outwardly, which is kind of how I view manifesting anything, is being able to hold that inner vision and bring it to reality exactly the way like it matches. Like, I feel like that is kind of like the biblical mystery of marriage on some level, is having the inner and the outer become one. And so and I think as you do that with anything, you start to look at all these areas of your life. Every area that God's given you to steward could be mastered in that kind of way, where it's like, maybe you're an all-star on your relationships, but like your money game is just shit, but like, or somebody's money game could be awesome, somebody's like relationships are shit, it's like, we're not nobody's like better because they got different skills, but where it starts to become better is when we start sharing these things. I was listening to Owen Benjamin. I find his comedy kind of funny, and like his like live streams and stuff entertaining, and like he was talking the other day about like money and finance and taxes and write-offs, which as somebody who has like a business, it's seeing the flow of money and how what you put out comes back to you, and knowing that experientially, and knowing that God provides on top of that. Seeing how the money kind of just is a current of energy is really beneficial. And I think a big spell that a lot of people in the truth community are under is a scarcity spell. And I'd like to, on some level, help break that spell, and help others experience more prosperity and abundance. And at the same time, work outside of the system, but on the other end, creating new systems to replace a lot of the unconscious systems, if that makes sense. And so, when it comes to like taxes, especially, because that seems like such like when people talk to me, they're like, oh, how do you handle all the tax forms and this and that? It's like, the only reason you have to keep track of any of it is for taxes. And it's like, the more that you spend on your business or on your employees or on your community even, the less you pay in taxes. It's like, unless you're like getting hordes of money and just like putting it in a bank and just letting it sit, yeah, I mean, that's when you start getting a whole bunch of like tax issues and stuff. But if you're as you're flipping it, as you're flowing it, you can make a shitload. But if you're spending a lot, which is then coming back to you because we're all connected, and that's part of the currency of it. As you spend it, you're kind of paying yourself, because then you get more. And as backwards as that might sound, because the world teaches you to hoard it and save it like it's scarce. Money's not scarce. That's an illusion. It's abundant, and like there's more than enough for everybody, for it to go around. But the thing of it is the more that you prove your faith by demonstrating it, that's what starts putting new, concreting new thoughts and assumptions. Because until you start to do that, it's almost like you're stuck in that scarcity, because you're demonstrating that you believe it by like hoarding and feeling like, oh, there's not enough and everything. And that might be triggering, but start small. It's something I get into, where it's like, oh, you hear these things and you want to go for full throttle from 0 to 11, like just be like a master, just like have it materialize and manifest instantaneously, just like that. And hold that vision, because like it's like the more that you're able to really believe it, the faster and faster things start to happen. To a point, it's like, some people might, hold the vision for months and months, but, it's like, start holding the vision more and more and believing the reality of it, because God's already said that you've been blessed. The more that you just believe that and demonstrate that through your life, the faster it starts to happen. So, I realized that a while ago, when I hired, all those guys, seeing how the jobs compensated, to be able to pay for them. It's like I didn't have a big hoard of money that I was just like dipping into to pay people. Even now, it's like I pay my guy out of the jobs, and so but like seeing how it just flips, is something probably worth sharing to people, because like a lot of people probably haven't started a business where they're paying people. So like that perspective, especially with like all these psychotic mandates, I can see these businesses just making these unconscious psychopath decisions to like, to work for me, you need to inject yourself with some random experimental thing, and it's just like, that's fucking crazy, and a lot of these people on the sinking ship that are self-destructing, are just believe, it's self-destructing because of lies and not believing the truth. And, God's, Jesus is the truth, and so, and people can be all triggered by that if they want, but like, doesn't matter to me anymore. It's like, well, then keep doing what you're doing then. As someone who has already, been to the bottom of that, the bottom of that drain, chasing this hamster wheel of like, if I only had this, and if I just had a little bit more, fill in the blank, then I could be happy. It's all about bringing that future happiness to now, because now is the only time that is actually real. And so if you're in a state of suffering now, it's not going to be different tomorrow. So it's like you start making the change now, and the seeds you start planting today start to come back to you as you progress. It's like the journey and the destination is like kind of one and the same. It's like I live like in Indiana. We got all this freaking corn like that's being harvested. Everything's being harvested right now because it's like getting ready to change seasons and to fall into winter. And so it's like allergies big time, so, sorry if I kind of stuffed up or whatever, or having issues. It's just thousands of acres of shit just floating around in the air over here. And anyway, long story short, it's just like, start to embody that new identity, because it's all about the identity of the new man, which is being revealed through the doing, by you doing these things, by you stepping out in faith. Hey. Everything's being my dog's over there just chomping away at a food bowl, just recklessly banging into the door. But like it's like when you start to step out in faith. Let me deal with this. Quit. Yeah, when you start to see it then playing out, and then a lot of times you start to connect the dots looking backwards to see how the bridges of incidents kind of played together, because how it happens is really in God's ways. It's like it's hard to even put yourself in like the imaginal, because like that's one of the things you hear with like the manifesting crowd. It's like, you imagine the wish fulfilled. But sometimes a stumbling block is like the bridge of incidents, trying to imagine the bridge of incidents that lead to that fulfillment. It's like, let that go. I mean, you don't need to control how it happens. If your desired state is just to feel abundant or healthy, or any of these like heavenly states, it's like of like oneness and connectivity. You just want to feel joy, for example. It's like, a lot of times the old mind doesn't even know how joy happened. It tries to recreate situations that is like, I felt good then. I don't really know how that happened, but if I just recreate these rituals and these patterns, then I'll just continuously feel joy. When a lot of times like these things are experienced in present moment awareness. And so trying to think about the situations and circumstances that cause it. Maybe it's a specific person. You have a lot of fun, or it feels good to be in their presence, be around them. Maybe that, just like, oh, I just really want to be around that person again, a friend or something. That's one thing. But it's another if you're like almost getting in these addictive patterns, where it's just like, oh, it was really fun when I was shopping, and so I'm going to go shopping like all the time and continuously buy things and feel good, but then at the same time start to feel guilty because I got nowhere to put it, or now I feel like a hoarder, or these things that have a double edge, kind of getting out of that and getting more into just realizing that whatever you ask for, you believe that you've received it and it's yours, that's a real thing. And it's like the more that you just like have faith, that just having that faith that that it's going to happen anyway, it doesn't matter really how it plays out, but it just will. But you don't need that certain thing outside to affect your right now, how you feel about it. You can connect with that energy anyway. You're not missing out on anything because you can have it, just knowing that. And then sitting there, if feeling that feeling of, this is real, this is happening, and knowing that that's real and that's happening is a really good state to be in the present moment. So hopefully share that with others, and hopefully that doesn't trigger you too much, because it's so easy to start, oh, I'm so used to feeling like shit. Anybody like trying to help me feel good, fuck them. They must be lying to me because I'm so believing this hopeless situation. Which is something the truth community is like, I can't stand watching a lot of these videos anymore, where it's like I used to spend so much time just like trying to get to the bottom of it and everything else, and now it's just like you start seeing how you have a situation externally that's like more than likely neutral, and then you see like a really hopeless, oh, it's satanic, some evil fucking thing. Even you could be talking about, oh, there's a new type of flower. Look how beautiful it is. They just discovered, and then you have like somebody in the truth community is like, oh, it's probably genetically engineered by some satanic fucking person to ruin like DNA and and just go on and on with just the story about it, versus just sitting there and appreciating the flowers. Like, oh, that is cool. That's neat. No big long drawn out story. No they that created the flower for some sinister reason. It's like start looking at it as like, oh, God created that flower on some level, and appreciate it. It's like stop getting in this. The they is constantly just in doing all these power. By building the they up to these godlike attributes, you are diminishing yourself for one, and then you're also building and enslaving yourself to this they that you have built up, and so it's when you really understand that, you realize how insane it is to keep doing that. That's one of the reasons I kind of like the bear community and like Owen Benjamin and people like that are just like, this is the once you see like the emperor has no clothes, and it's all bottom up, just social pressures from people that are unconscious. Then you realize you have no competition, and you can do and have anything. I mean, it's not hard to do shit, especially in physical reality. It's very easy, and it's only these thoughts of scarcity and like, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy enough to pursue any of these things or do any of these things, that just keep you in this box. Like last year, I was gotten some shit from some family members, like, oh, aren't you going to acquiesce to these social the new normals, when it comes to like your business? It's like, fuck no. It's like, for one, I'm not doing that, and like I told my customers that, like if I had to go to Lowe's or something like that and they wanted to come with me, it's like, well, yeah, you can come with me if you want, but I'm not wearing a mask, and if that makes you uncomfortable, then maybe we go separately, but I'm not going to wear a mask because you want me to. And I had that with one of my customers where, it kind of emboldened him not to wear it. Now in my community, no one's doing that anymore, but like, there was a time where it's like, yeah, maybe like 5%, 10% of people were not wearing masks and like looking around like, you guys better quit this shit, or this is going to be your new life. You want this to be your life? I don't want to live in, especially a fairy tale where it's just like hysteria driven, some invisible hysterical existential threat with something is like only affects 1% of the population. So yeah, and it's like, oh, Mike, that's really that's cold to say. And it's like, well, you are responsible for your own health and your own body. Expecting others to constantly coddle you, especially when it's like your delusion, is not love. It's not loving to allow people's delusions especially their nightmarish delusions, to continue on. It's like, why? Why would I encourage that? Is one thing. If someone's legitimately scared, I guess. But even that, it's like, what are you afraid of? You're afraid of the inevitable. What is it? You're afraid of dying? Well, tackle that now. I mean, are you gonna be a 90-year-old still afraid of death? You spend your whole life running from this. So much of people's limitations is in a weird way because their fear of death. And there's like a lot of these weird examples of that. But like, risk taking, doing something new, is part of like shedding the old identity. So it's like so much people's old identity that I've witnessed, comes from what they do for a living, from their job. And a lot of like times, people don't like their jobs anyway, and so, I can understand some of the fear of like, if you didn't, say no to, the initial 2 weeks to flatten the the whole thing has been nonsense, but it's like, if you didn't catch it then, if you didn't say, oh, I'm not going to wear this mask for 8 hours a day, then it's like, oh, now they're trying to push this experimental shit into my body. It's like, you have to say no, and you have to realize that, it's like, you have to say no because you're not a slave to the outside. It's backwards, it's like, once you start to understand that dynamic, you can start stepping into who you actually are, and that's not a slave, and that's not a victim. And so, yeah, hopefully bring that to you guys' attention and awareness, and you can implement some of that in your normal life. And other than that, I got to take care of the chicken. I got to clean their coop out today. They're starting to produce more and more eggs. We got 2 green eggs, which is exciting. I can't remember all the names, like not the brands of the chickens, but what do you call them? Like a species? That doesn't sound right. But it's like I think the green eggs come from Easter eggers, and so it's just like a type of chicken. They're not all the same. You got different types. It's like a goldfish versus like a catfish. I mean, it's a fish, but there's different types. And the chickens have the same kind of variety. And so, I'm gonna rake out their coop and put new, chips down. Wood chips. I was talking to some people that have chickens, and they recommended the wood chips because it doesn't something with the smell makes it easier to take care of them and not have a smelly coop with wood chips, like flakes, almost like hamster flakes or whatever. I can get like a 25, like a big cube of it from the farm store, and like covers about 2 of those covers the floor, and like other than that, the business is going good. I got this look at this thing. I got like how thick that is. It's like, how many pages is this? 61 pages of an inspection that needs dealt with, just from the I don't know. I did the estimate yesterday. Had my guy out there, with me. I wanted to show him how to do that and what that looks like. To really trying to teach him how to be a creator, like a business creator, and like showing him how to do sales, how to do jobs, all that kind of stuff. And if he chooses to continue to work for me, I think that as like an entrepreneur, I think that would be awesome. Because I want to have like a team of people like that have a creator mindset, and then allow them to kind of pursue their passions within the business. And so, it's like having him out there, and like I think just from that, it was like about $5,000 but that doesn't include a lot of this shit. That was just some of the bigger things. A lot of those, like, caulk a door. I'll give you an example. Install new door on entrance to crawl space with vent. Repair damaged screen, patch or seal cracks in foundation, repair exhaust fan. Just a bunch of little things. But then they wanted to paint the outside of the house, paint the entire inside of the house, install 3 or 4 new doors. Light fixtures, a whole bunch of shit. Obviously a big checklist. And so hopefully, it seems like I'll get it. I quoted it pretty right on the money, and like and they everything seemed to go well, and hopefully get that. And I might end up being able to hire another guy to help do that job. I'd like to get that done timely. Because I got some other things in the hopper then too, and so just want to share that with you guys, and like at the same time, just remind you, in case you start getting triggered or falling back into like the old man, drifting into it, is like, who says that? I forget who that came from. David Hawkins maybe is talking about drifting. But it's kind of like an easy way to like realize when you're like kind of like, oh, I'm in a state I don't enjoy, and it's like really amplified separation. Like you're forgetting that the circumstance, event, people is not somehow connected, and that starts drifting you into this kind of us versus them kind of mentality. But other than that, I think I'm gonna bounce. So thanks everybody for listening, and have a good rest of your now, and God bless.